I've never even met this child. Michael's voice echoed through the courtroom, dripping with calculated innocence. She's completely making this up, Your Honor. I sat there, my hands steady as I held the weathered school yearbook in my lap, watching my ex-husband perform his carefully rehearsed act. The same man who'd attended every father-daughter dance for 6 years was now claiming our Emma didn't exist. My name is Alexandra Winter, and at 35, I never imagined I'd be sitting in a courtroom proving my daughter's existence to her own father. But life has a way of surprising you, especially when you're dealing with someone desperate enough to deny their own flesh and blood to avoid paying child support. Your Honor, Michael continued, his voice smooth as silk, I left the marriage 7 years ago. If there was a child, why am I just hearing about this now? He spread his hands wide, the picture of bewilderment. The expensive suit he wore, probably bought by his new 20-something girlfriend, was a far cry from the t-shirts he used to wear to Emma's soccer games. I caught my lawyer, Diana Martinez, giving me a subtle nod. We prepared for this moment, anticipated Michael's performance. The past 3 months had been a masterclass in his deception, ever since he decided that acknowledging Emma's existence would interfere with his new life. Mrs. Winter, Judge Thompson turned to me, her expression neutral. These are serious allegations. Mr. Sullivan claims he has no knowledge of this child, yet you're seeking 7 years of back child support. Yes, Your Honor, I replied, my voice clear and firm. And I can prove not only that Michael knows about Emma, but that he was an active part of her life until 6 months ago. Michael's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. They hadn't expected evidence. They counted on it being my word against his, banking on the fact that Michael had managed to keep Emma off his social media, had never listed her on his tax returns, and had paid for everything in cash to avoid a paper trail. Approach the bench, Judge Thompson instructed. I stood, the yearbook heavy in my hands. Each step felt deliberate, meaningful. This wasn't just about the money, it was about making sure Emma knew the truth, that she had proof of who her father really was. I opened the yearbook to the first marked page. This is from Emma's first grade year, I said, pointing to a photo of the father-daughter dance. There was Michael beaming in a blue button-down shirt, holding 6-year-old Emma's hands as they twirled on the dance floor. He never missed a single dance. Michael's face drained of color. He'd forgotten about the yearbooks, hadn't he? Forgotten that schools document everything, preserving memories in ink and paper that can't be erased as easily as text messages or emails. There's more. I continued flipping through the pages. 2nd grade field day, where he ran the 3-legged race with her. 3rd grade science fair, where he helped her build a model solar system. 4th grade. That's enough, Michael suddenly burst out, his composure cracking. Those photos could be anyone. They're not clear enough, Toe. Mr. Sullivan, Judge Thompson cut him off sharply. These photographs are quite clear, and the captions list both your name and your daughter's. I watched as Michael's carefully constructed lie began to unravel. The same man who taught Emma to ride a bike, kissed her scraped knees, and cheered at her recitals was now caught in his own web of deceit. The truth was, everything had changed when Michael met Brittany. She was 23, worked at his gym, and apparently didn't want to date a man with a 12-year-old daughter. So Michael, ever adaptable, decided to simply erase Emma from his life. He blocked our numbers, moved across town, and when the child support papers were served, claimed he'd never even met her. Your Honor, Diana spoke up, we have additional evidence. Teacher testimonials, medical records where Mr. Sullivan is listed as the father, and a particularly interesting video from Emma's 5th grade graduation, where Mr. Sullivan gave a parent speech. Michael slumped in his chair, his expensive suit suddenly looking more like a costume than a symbol of success. His lawyer leaned over, whispering urgently in his ear, but I already knew we'd won. Furthermore, Diana continued, we have proof that Mr. Sullivan has been deliberately hiding his income to avoid financial responsibility. The lifestyle he currently maintains, including a new luxury car and beachfront condo, suggests an income far higher than what he's reported. Judge Thompson looked at the evidence before her, then at Michael, her expression hardening. Mr. Sullivan, this court takes a very dim view of parents who attempt to evade their responsibilities through deception. Not only have you lied about knowing your child, but you've also apparently engaged in financial manipulation to avoid support payments. I thought about Emma at home, staying with my sister, probably working on her math homework or practicing her guitar. She didn't know about this hearing. I protected her from this latest betrayal. But someday, she would understand what happened here today. Someday she would know that her father's choices had nothing to do with her worth and everything to do with his own selfishness. The judge's voice pulled me back to the present. We'll take a brief recess, after which I expect to see documentation of Mr. Sullivan's actual income. And Mr. Sullivan, she fixed him with a stern look. Consider yourself fortunate if I don't refer this case for criminal prosecution for perjury. During the recess, I stood in the courthouse hallway, scrolling through my phone's photo gallery. Pictures of happier times filled the screen. Michael teaching Emma to swim, family camping trips, birthday celebrations. It was hard to reconcile these memories with the man who just denied her existence in front of a judge. Diana approached, her heels clicking against the marble floor. He wants to talk, she said, her expression cautious. His lawyer suggests we might reach a settlement. I looked up from my phone, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Now he wants to talk, after lying to the judge's face. They know they're cornered, Diana explained. The yearbook was just the beginning. Once we present the financial evidence, she trailed off meaningfully. I nodded, understanding what she wasn't saying. The past 3 months of investigation had uncovered more than just photos and school records. We'd found a carefully constructed web of hidden bank accounts, cash transactions, and deliberately underreported income. Ms. Winter, Michael's lawyer approached, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit. My client would like a word. In private. I glanced at Diana, who gave a slight nod. I'll be right outside, she assured me. Following the lawyer into a small conference room, I found Michael sitting there, his earlier confidence completely deflated. He looked older somehow, the weight of his lies finally showing on his face. Alex, he started, using my old nickname like we were still friends. We need to end this. Funny. I replied, keeping my voice steady. That's exactly what I thought when I filed for child support. Instead, you decided to pretend our daughter doesn't exist. He flinched. You don't understand. Brittany, your girlfriend? I cut him off. The one who's barely older than the babysitter we used to hire for Emma. She's my fiancée now, he corrected, as if that somehow made everything better. And she didn't want complications. Complications? The word tasted like acid. That's what you're calling Emma now. Michael ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. I'll pay the support, he said finally. Whatever amount you're asking, just don't show the rest of what you found. Please. I thought about the evidence Deanna had gathered, the offshore account where he'd been hiding his real estate commission money, the cash deposits that conveniently never appeared on his tax returns, the fake business he'd set up in his brother's name to channel funds away from his official income. You know what's funny, Michael? I said, leaning back in my chair. I never cared about the money. All these years, Emma and I were fine on my teacher's salary. What hurts is that you didn't just abandon us. You tried to erase us. I never meant, he started. You never meant what? I interrupted. To get caught. To have to explain to your young fiancé that you have a 12-year-old daughter. To face consequences for once in your life. The door opened and Diana poked her head in. They're calling us back. Standing up, I smoothed my skirt and gathered my composure. The judge needs to see everything, Michael. Not just for the money, but because Emma deserves to have the truth on record. She deserves to know none of this was her fault. Back in the courtroom, Diana methodically presented the financial evidence. Bank statements, property records, and business documents flashed across the presentation screen. With each new revelation, Michael seemed to shrink further into his chair. Your Honor, Diana concluded, Mr. Sullivan's claimed annual income of $45,000 is a fiction. Our evidence shows his actual earnings exceed $300,000 per year, carefully hidden through various means to avoid financial responsibility. Judge Thompson's expression grew sterner with each document. Mr. Sullivan, she addressed Michael directly, would you care to explain why you reported less than a sixth of your actual income? Michael's lawyer whispered something in his ear, but he just shook his head, defeated. And would you care to explain this? Diana continued, pulling up a series of text messages on the screen. Messages between Michael and his brother, joking about the fake business they'd set up. Messages that made it clear this wasn't just negligence. It was deliberate fraud. I watched as the last of Michael's carefully constructed facade crumbled. The same man who'd once promised to always protect our daughter had spent months orchestrating an elaborate scheme to deny her very existence. In light of this evidence, Judge Thompson's voice cut through the tension. This court finds Mr. Sullivan's actions not only reprehensible but potentially criminal. I am ordering immediate wage garnishment for all back child support, calculated based on his actual income. Furthermore, I am referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for review of possible criminal charges related to perjury and financial fraud. Michael's new fiancée, who'd been sitting quietly in the back of the courtroom, stood up and walked out. I wondered if she was finally seeing the real Michael, not the successful, carefree man he pretended to be, but the one who could deny his own child to maintain that illusion. As we left the courthouse, Diana touched my arm. "You did the right thing," she said softly. "Some truths need to come to light, no matter how uncomfortable." I thought about Emma, about the conversation we would need to have. She was old enough to understand what had happened, old enough to know that sometimes people we love can disappoint us deeply. But she was also strong enough to survive it. She was my daughter after all. That evening, I sat with Emma on our back porch, the same spot where she used to wait for Michael to come home from work. She was strumming her guitar, the one he'd given her for her 11th birthday, just months before he disappeared from our lives. "Mom," she said, setting the guitar aside. "Something happened today, didn't it? Aunt Sarah was acting weird when she picked me up from school." I took a deep breath. I promised myself I'd always be honest with Emma, even when the truth hurt. "Yes, honey. There was a court hearing today. About your dad." Her fingers traced the pattern on her guitar strap. Did he really tell everyone I wasn't real? My heart clenched. Of course she knew. Kids at school probably talked. Small towns have a way of making sure everyone knows everything. "Yes," I said softly, "but we proved he was lying." "With the yearbooks?" she asked, surprising me. "I saw you packing them in your car last night." I nodded. "Those and other things." The judge made sure everyone knew the truth. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing. "Is that why he left? Because he didn't want me anymore?" "No, sweetheart." I pulled her close. "He left because he's weak, because he cared more about looking good to his new girlfriend than being honest about who he is. That's not your fault. It's his failure, not yours." We sat there in silence, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. Emma had her father's eyes, but her spirit, that unwavering strength, was all her own. My phone buzzed. A text from Diana. Michael's brother agreed to testify about the fake business. DA is moving forward with charges. I showed Emma the message. She deserved to know everything. Dad might be in trouble with the law, I explained. He did some things that weren't just wrong, they were illegal. Like pretending I didn't exist. Her voice was small but steady. Like hiding money and lying to the court, I clarified. But yes, denying you was part of it. Emma picked up her guitar again, strumming a few chords before speaking. "You know what's weird, Mom? I'm kind of glad." "Glad?" "Yeah," she continued, "because now I know for sure it wasn't in my head. All those times he promised to come to my recitals and didn't show up. All those texts he didn't answer. He was really doing it on purpose. I'm not crazy for feeling hurt." I marveled at my daughter's wisdom. At 12, she understood something it had taken me years to learn. Sometimes knowing the harsh truth is better than living with uncertain hope. The next few weeks brought changes. Michael's fiancée called off their engagement after learning about his deception. His real estate license was suspended pending investigation. The DA's office moved forward with fraud charges. But the biggest change was in Emma. She started talking more in her therapy sessions, joined the school band, and even signed up for a summer science camp she'd been hesitant about before. "You seem happier," I observed one morning as she practiced her guitar. "I am," she said. "I'm not waiting anymore for Dad to notice me or love me or whatever. I'm just living." The wisdom of children never ceases to amaze me. 3 months after the court hearing, we received an unexpected letter. It was from Michael, written from his brother's house where he'd been staying since losing his condo. "Dear Emma," it began, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness." We read it together, Emma's head resting on my shoulder. The letter was full of excuses thinly disguised as apologies, talks of changes he promised to make, mentions of time he wanted to spend together once things settled down. "What do you want to do?" I asked her after we finished reading. Emma thought for a moment, then walked to her desk and pulled out a sheet of paper. In her neat handwriting, she wrote, Asterisk, dear Dad, I exist. I've always existed. I'm not waiting anymore. Emma asterisk. She sealed it in an envelope and handed it to me. Can you nail this? I hugged her tight, this beautiful, strong girl who'd learned too young that sometimes the people who should love us the most can hurt us the deepest. That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she asked, Mom, are you glad the truth came out? I thought about the months of preparation, the stress of the court battle, the pain of watching Michael's lies exposed. Yes, I answered honestly. Because now we can both move forward knowing we deserve better. She nodded, already half asleep. We do deserve better, she mumbled. And we have better. We have us. Sitting there, watching my daughter drift off to sleep, I realized she was right. Sometimes the happy ending isn't about winning court battles or exposing lies. Sometimes it's about finding the strength to stand in your truth, to know your worth, and to choose yourself, even when others don't choose you.